All right, guys, today I'm going to show you how I put a bow grip on one of my self bows. There's not many videos out there on how to do this and how to do it well, at least. I ended up kind of piecing together information that people had taught me and a couple other videos that I had seen a while ago, and then just trial and error to do it this way, the way that I actually do it. So normally I do alligator, but you can see all I have is this chunk of black left. I like to get it in the white, so today I'm going to do an ostrich leg. The ostrich legs, they're pretty cool. I don't know if you can see that texture. They're pretty nice. You can get this from Tandy Leather. The only thing you have to worry about is this stuff does not stretch very good, just like beaver tail doesn't stretch good. Alligator stretches awesome, so it's really, really easy. So I'm going to show you guys what you need for tools. So you need an ostrich leg. Now I get mine in the white, and the reason being is I dye them whatever color I want. And you can see right here, this is one that I dyed. So just to get that better color, you get to choose what color you want. You know, I'm a leather company, so I got plenty of color laying around, but you can order these in all different ones. I think the burnt orange was one of the neatest ones, kind of two-tone. So tools, sewing needles. You're gonna need 2 of them. They have to be able to take a pretty decent sized thread. I use what's called Nyltex, just a heavy duty nylon thread. So you got sewing needles, you need a pencil, a outrageously sharp razor knife, and I mean super, super, super sharp. I actually sharpen mine. I use a hole punch. Once again, I'm a leather company, so I have this kind of stuff laying around. You don't have to use it. You can actually take your needles and just poke holes through. I'm a freak of nature, so I'm going to use a set of dividers to really mark where my holes are going to be. That's super important. And then I need a ruler, which I don't know where my ruler is right now. So, oh, there we go. So what I'm using is barge cement. It doesn't say barge cement on it. It's because I reuse a can like forever. Once again, I'm a leather company, so I have this stuff laying around. You can buy this in a small container on Amazon, but it's called barge cement. It's contact cement. So this is important. You don't want to do it without it, because depending on the riser, it could start to slip and move around and stuff and pull away, and it's really, really annoying. So you don't want to do that. All right, let's get this guy out of the way. Get this out of the way, move everything forward. Okay, so all I did was I dyed this piece. I put a straighter cut on the bottom, right where one of the scales are, right here. And what I did, that's going to be my bottom. Let's turn this camera. So this is the bottom of my bow. So right here, now when I cut this though, I cut it on a little bit of a radius. You see that? And the reason being is when I come around the face of my bow, I want it to kind of come down below. So I'll be able to show that a little bit better afterwards. So all I care about is getting that to line up where I want it in the fades and how it looks, and make sure that your piece will wrap all the way around the bow, because sometimes these things are small. Okay? Now, let me just make sure that this is way big enough. Oh yeah, let's get rid of some of this excess. So we'll get some of this excess off. There's plenty there. So I'm just marking this with a pencil to get rid of some of this extra junk that I don't need to be on here. Because the smaller the piece, just the easier it is to work on it. Okay. Cutting, little cutting. Okay, so there's my shape. Now I'm going to take that bad boy and I'm going to paint it with barge cement. And barge cement, how this stuff works is it goes on, you're going to put it on wet, and when it dries, you'll put it on this piece and you'll put it on the bow. And when it's dry, the second you touch it to there, it is stuck. You don't use it while it's still wet. You have to wait for it to dry completely. Okay. Da, 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 I'm going to do this whole thing with barge cement, every bit of it. Because what's cool about this, let's just say I put barge cement right here on the bow, right here, but I don't put it up here, it's only going to stick to wherever I put the barge cement on the bow. So it makes it super, super easy to work with. And it doesn't leave the goop all over everything. Can you use other stuff? I don't know. This is what I'm using. I think you can get tubes of this too. But it's just called contact cement. Used to use this stuff to fix Zodiac boats. You know those rubber boats? So this whole thing gets painted. Okay, so this is all covered in barge cement. Now here's the really important part. Like I said, I do this very, very different than most people. Most people would try to shape it and get it to kind of fit this before actually gluing anything. I'm not doing that. I'm literally gonna put glue on the back of the handle, just back here, around the sides, around this side and everything, and then I'm gonna stretch and stick this bad boy on there. And like I said, the contact cement, this thing's only gonna stick where I stick the contact cement onto here. So I'm not going across the face of this, I'm not going way down the limb, I'm not putting it all over the place, because I don't wanna sit there and try to clean this stuff up. You can clean it up, I just don't want to deal with it. It gets kind of like a rubber boogeriness to it. So just the back where my hand is and along the sides, and really not even too far out the sides. So some people will wet this. Let's talk about that for a minute. So these bad boys do not stretch well. I don't know why the ostrich leg doesn't. Same thing with the beaver tail. So if you've got a very heavy dished handle, like almost like one of the old bear risers, this is not going to work the way that we're doing this right now. This is for a longbow handle that as long as there's no crazy stretching, it'll be completely fine. If you have crazy stretching, you're going to do almost everything the same exact way, except you're going to take this once the barge cement is dry and you're going to sit this in water and it's going to soak up. And the cool thing is the barge cement's already dry on it. So what that's going to do, it's going to make it so you could stretch a little bit. If this does not stretch the way I want to, I might wet it a little bit, but I'm not soaking it. I don't like having to do that, because you end up having to wait overnight and everything for everything to kind of dry out, and you have to wrap it. It's not my cup of tea. So, like I said, if you're doing a very deep handle, this is not going to stretch well unless you wet it. So let's put some glue on this riser right now. Like I said, my lines aren't even done on here. No, nothing. I'm just putting an oversized piece on here right now. And I'm going to show you how I trim it in place. So just the back of the handle. And now keep in mind, I am not, when you look at my shelf right there, I'm going to take it right up over the shelf, but to the shelf, but I'm not going to bring my glue that close. I'm going to bring the glue maybe 1/8 of an inch from there. All right, so let's go 1/8 of an inch. You want to be really clean with what you're doing right here. You don't want to get tons of excess all over everything. That's the worst part about this. All right, now straight down the back of the handle. I'm going to stop about 1/8 of an inch from where I think I'm going to end up leaving my stopping my leather. Down the sides. And like I said, you're not going all the way down the sides. I'd say, what do I go? I go probably 2/3 of the way. And if you do go a little bit past, it's okay. It's just what's going to happen is this: we want to have no glue on the front where the stitching is, because we've still got to trim it and shape it and everything and get a straight line, poke our holes. Then what's going to happen is we'll put the glue down and we're going to stitch this thing before this glue dries completely. Oop, look at that. Just stuck my hand right to the riser. Nice job, Mark. Should have roughed the handle a little bit. I always forget to do that. Take a little bit of sandpaper and just rough it just a hair. That's it. All right, now we're going to let this dry completely before we try doing anything else. All right, so this is dried for a while. I think it takes like 5 minutes or so, if that. The longer you let it dry, the better it will actually adhere and it won't peel off very easy, but we don't really want it to pull off super hard in case we change our mind or if it doesn't work out. If things don't work out, you can pull it right off. All right, so this is the really important part. We're gonna start right at the bottom. Everything's lined up how we want it. We're gonna touch it right onto there. Everything in a straight line. We're only doing the back handle part right now. I'm gonna really press that bad boy on there. Okay? Now, this is where it gets very, very tricky, and it's hard for me to film this. We're gonna press it on, but as we go, we're gonna stretch it so it doesn't wrinkle. See how it wants to wrinkle right here? We're gonna come along the side, and we're just going a little bit at a time on both sides. Yeah, it really wants to wrinkle already. See how I'm just pressing that? You can see how nicely shaped that is. And just slowly work it all the way around. I do both sides a little bit on each side at a time, and the reason being is just that way it doesn't shift. So let me put my hands down. See, it's hard to film this. It's like really hard to film it. All right, there's the big stretch. Big stretch coming around. Wow, that looks amazing already. See, no wrinkle. All of the wrinkle is shifted to right here where we haven't glued yet, but what's gonna happen is just when I round this corner across the top here, it's gonna let that pull that wrinkle out. Make sure everything meets to the center. Yeah, it meets to the center. This meets to the center. I'm a little short. See that right there? I'm a little short over here. Oh, the other thing is too, when you go to stitch this thing, you're not stretching it at all. Like, it's impossible. Like, if you try stretching this with the sewing needle and the thread, it's just gonna rip and break. Okay, all right, let's see. Pretty happy with that. All right, now, coming across, we're gonna mark to relieve some pressure. We're gonna come right across through right here. This pencil is not marking very well on this material. So you really gotta, so I'm below the shelf, I don't know, about 1/8. And I'm just kind of gonna make this shape. I tend to round right here. I don't know why, just like the way it looks. Coming up. Okay. Now here comes the super delicate part. The outrageously sharp razor blade. We're gonna cut that line, but I'm not pushing through. Now I'm going to lift. See, oh, you can't see. I'm lifting the leather and pulling it away from the bow, so I'm not cutting it against the bow. Just using just the tip. So the razor tip is not touching the bow at all, it's just touching the edge. The edge of the leather, I mean. Okay. See that nice shape? It's kind of relieved some of the pressure here a bit. Alright, now I'm going to come across the grip. Same thing. Lifting as we go. It's really important you lift because you don't want to gouge the bow. Alright. Now this is one trick that I liked. Take the pencil. Actually, I prefer doing it with the razor knife. I'm kind of pushing this over the shelf and mashing it over it. That way I could take my pencil and mark where I want to cut. And I'm just taking it a hair below the shelf. There we go. Make my line with the razor knife. And then start lifting. Hi, honey.
Hi.
You're just in time for the fun.
How's it going?
Filming.
Okay.
What do you think?
Looks very nice.
It's a pain.
Oh, I like that piece.
Uh-huh.
That's
It's
really
real
neat.
difficult. The only catch is I came a little bit short right here. Make sure people see I came a little bit short here, but it's okay because I end up coming across. So I'll use that as my line going up the grip.
Okay.
But yeah.
Looks really nice.
It is a pain in the tuchus, I could tell you that much. See what I did? I said tuchus.
Yes, you did.
I swear too much apparently.
Well, Liam would be proud. Oh, I gotta take pictures of these new tabs.
Now you could always trim this a little bit more afterwards. I'm in that super hard, weird, flat scale that you gotta be careful on. So I'm really gonna lift it up and off on that. There we go. Like I said, you could always trim a little bit more afterwards. You can always trim more, but you can't add stuff on. What is that saying? I cut it twice and it's still too short. Cut. Okay. Yeah, see, I'm a little bit high here. I don't like how that looks right now. Let me roll this down so you can see. I don't like how high I am here. I'm actually going to take that down a lot more than this. It just doesn't look good to me. Now, for the front. So the best trick here, let's see where my hand is. My hand is up here, so I'm gonna hold the bow. Gonna hold the bow, and you see all this excess down here? I don't need any of that. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take my pinky and I'm gonna mark it right around below my pinky. So that's my finish. So I could actually mark all of this all the way around now. That's because that's the finished part. I can mark all the way around and shape that. So the top is shaped. Now we're going to shape the bottom, and then afterwards we're going to trim this in a straight line and cut our stitch holes. Let's see, so that one, close that. Just like that. Yeah, look good. So we just follow this around. Let's trim that. What's that?
I'm talking about. You know, see if you have any thoughts on dinner.
Thoughts on dinner? Pizza. I'd kill for a piece of pizza today. All right, so peel this away. Remember, we don't cut up against that bow.
We're going to Michelle's later? When you're done?
I'm okay with that.
Okay. I'll get stromboli.
There we go. That's the one side. Now you see I have excess glue. So before this stuff really kicks, I'm gonna take my finger and mush that excess glue out of there. That way I don't have to try to deal with it later. Alright, that's good. I'm gonna take that across the other side. Try not to ding up my bow. I didn't want to do it on this table, but I had no choice. So now, where this piece meets, where this flap meets, we could just mark that right there, and I could just draw a nice clean edge all the way down that.
I'm going to go back inside, so I'm not bothering you.
Okay. Let's peel that up a little bit. Trim that around. And this is the hardest part. The hardest part is seriously trimming it and getting everything to line up how you want it. The rest of it's super easy. Stitching is easy, just taking your time cutting and marking and getting that shape. And not getting wrinkles. The last thing you want to do is see a wrinkle in this thing. Like, I can't stand it when it wrinkles. Alright. That's a good shape. Now check this out. So it kind of goes straight line, curves, because my hand is bigger on the side, so I left it like that, and I like the way it looks doing that little curve there. So now we're going to come across the face. Now, the face can be a little bit tricky. We're going to do a little extra glue now. Because this wants to bulge and wrinkle, we're going to glue that down right now. Just a little bit, just to get more control so I can get a cleaner, straighter line. And what we're going to do, so once that's glued, we're going to mark it with a straight line, and then we're going to peel it back up so that way we can poke the holes. That's what's cool about this glue. You can put it on and then take it off, then put it on and take it off. It's all through this little valley right here. Both little valleys, so that way we can not have any wrinkle there when we're working. And notice, see what I did there? I came all the way across this, and that's okay. It's just gonna peel right off when we're done with it. But we're not gonna put any glue down here because we want that to be kind of temporary. Well, I'm sorry, not temporary. We just don't want it to stick there at all. And if you end up with a clump of glue, just take it off. There's no point in having it. All right. All right, so this is dried enough. Now you see this big wrinkle right here? This is why we want to glue right now, because if I try marking across the face of this a straight line, that wrinkle is going to stay there. So we're going to get rid of that by gluing it down right now. Then mark our edge, get everything straight, cut and everything, and then we'll peel it up to stitches. So same thing as before, we're gonna wrap our finger, really stretch that, and just kind of work it around and down. You see that now? Now there's no wrinkle, and it's flawless. Here's a really cool trick. So now, how do we get a straight line that's going to match the other one? Well, right here, I'm going to put a dot on the wood, and then I'm going to come up here to about center. So what I'm doing is I'm actually going to go slightly diagonal. I'm not going straight up the bow. I'm going on an angle like this. I just like the way it looks again. So we're going to come to right here, probably right around where the shelf is. So now I've got a mark here, and I've got a mark here. Let's get our ruler out. Our ruler is out, and then we're just going to connect the dots between those and then trim that. I don't know if you can see that well. I'm gonna have to change a battery on the GoPro too. So right where that one lines up and where that one lines up. It's tricky. Come on, fat fingers. Okay. So I've got the mark on there. Now we're going to cut it. Okay. Peel up a little bit. That way we're not cutting against the wood again. Got to get a finger hold started. Come on, fingers. There we go. Hope you guys can even see it. See, it's so hard to film something like this. Let's take the light and put it over here too. And peel it up away from that riser. See how I'm kind of pulling away with this piece? I pull away as I cut. Okay. Press her back down. So same thing for this side. So now we have a perfectly straight line here, but we need this one to come over so that way we could cut this one also. The reason why you don't want to start, let's just say, leaving a gap. Let's just say just do it like this. If I have a gap and this is not perfectly lined up, this stuff is not going to stretch. You're not going to be able to stretch it to close that stitch up. It's going to rip, and I know that for a fact because I ripped Josh's. Last time I did one of these, and you do all of this work just to rip it at the end is a real bummer. So we're going to roll that around. It should still be enough glue there for me to work. If there isn't, I might have to stop and re-glue. Yeah, I don't think there is. Come on. No, there's enough. Okay, so now that's all the way around. Now I'm going to take my ruler again. I'm going to line this one up with this one and cut that. I'm going to turn the bow. Go this way. Just like this. That way I'm really pressing down on that side of the ruler. Let's see if we can get a better line. That's a good line. It's desperately trying to wrinkle on me. see. So it looks good down here. Does not look good right here. It's kind of got like a little overlap of a flap. I must have missed my line a little bit, but the good news is because it's on top of the other one, what I can do is I could just take this straight edge and really push down on it pretty hard and get a cleaner cut on it right there. There we go. That should do it. Still not quite, huh? No, just a little more trimming, just a little bit. Like I said, it's got to be perfect. If it's not perfect right now, you're gonna hate the world trying to do it, correcting it in the future. Right there. That's pretty darn good right there. Just this little tiny bit more right here. Perfect. There you go. See how clean that seam is right there now? That's what you want. And this is the hardest part about doing a grip, is getting this all to line up like this. Now, it's just a matter of drawing the dots and stitching it. So, I'll end correcting a couple of spots. So like right here, this spot doesn't line up with this spot, so I'm gonna trim that now. I'm gonna trim all the way around. So all my final trimming is gonna be done right now. So it's gonna be exactly how I want it, no changes, no nothing, and then we're gonna go through and mark the stitches in the front. So, all right, let me change this camera battery. Okay, so all my trimming is done, and you can see, let me see if I can turn this again. See how nice and clean my edges are, and watch when I spin that around and go around the shelf. See how I left that little bit right there. You don't bring it all the way up to it. It just doesn't look right. You leave a space. So everything's perfectly trimmed. Now, I also laid out. It's a lot easier for me just to explain how I laid out than actually do it. With a ruler, I went from my center seam, I went 1/4 inch on both sides. It's a little bit wider of a stitch. I find that it looks good doing that, so that's why I chose that. So I did a dot here for 1/4 inch and a dot here for 1/4 inch, then ran a straight line. Did the same thing on the other side. So the whole thing is going to be a 1/2 inch wide stitch. Like I said, the wider stitch, it just looks good, you know. Plus, the thing what's nice about a wider stitch, if you make a mistake, it's not gonna rip. Like I said, if you try pulling on this right now, when we try to sew this, if you try wrenching that thread to try to close this stitch up, it's gonna rip. It's gonna rip right through. That's why this line has to be completely perfect from the beginning. So I ended up doing that. Then I'm gonna use dividers, and I'm gonna walk these dividers down. So the spacing that I chose for how many stitches is at 3/8 of an inch. If I remember right, let me see. 1, 2, 3, yeah, 3. I did 3/8. You think that you wanna go 1/4 inch because that's what the space was, it just doesn't look right. 1/2 doesn't look right either. 3/8 seems to be the magic number. So I'm gonna go through right now, and I'm gonna use these dividers to walk all the way down and mark all my stitches. And then I'll show you how I pop them out. Now I'm pressing down pretty hard to mark my dots. Because there's no like pen on the end of this thing, so I'm just kind of just digging that mark in a little bit. So what happens when we get to the end? Well, we cross our fingers that it doesn't end up stopping in a weird spot, which I feel like it always does, which it did. So it is what it is. What we'll do, I'll show you how to trim that so it doesn't look ridiculous. Alright, now I have an extra dot up here that I want to make sure I don't accidentally punch that dot. When I was laying out, I couldn't remember exactly how I wanted to do this. Okay, so now, where are my clips? So, this is a craft tool leather punch. It's the smallest hole possible. It seems to work pretty good for this, so that's why I'm going to use this again today. Worst case, you could take this and peel this up and use a tiny drill bit if you don't have a leather punch, or you could use literally just shove the needle right through. As long as it's sharp, shove it through, kind of wiggle it around to make that hole bigger, but I like using the hole punch. So, and here we go. We're gonna peel that up, and I'm not peeling this up a lot. I'm just peeling it up just enough to do what I gotta do, and that's it. It should be good. Nope, not good enough. A little bit more. Got so much junk on my table. Not good enough light either. Okay, that's one. Two. Come on. Peel up a little more for me. There you go. There we go, and there's our holes. And they look good too. They look real good. Alright, let's peel the other side and click those. That's it. All my holes are done. Okay. I'm just kind of checking to make sure this is going to lay back down exactly the way that it was, which it is. Like I said, you do not want to pull super tight on this. All right, so Niletex. Listen, Niletex, this is what I sew my quivers with. You don't have to use this. You could use artificial sinew. This stuff is pretty fat. I just like the way it looks. How much of it? I have sewn grips before and not had enough to finish the grip. What I kind of think of is, let me see, it takes me a full arm and some to do a quiver hood. with a cross stitch. So I'm going to take 5 feet, I guess. 5 and change, just in case. I'm sure it's really overkill, but whatever. All right, now needles. So needles, guys, where can you get needles? I've got tons of them because this is what I do. And you see what I'm doing? I'm actually mashing. I am mashing that thread to make it flat right now, to make it easy to go into my needle. If you go to Walmart, in the craft section, there's a set of needles. At least I've seen it in every Walmart so far, and they call them doll needles. They're super long like this. Comes with like 5 different sizes. All you want are these long ones. What's important though is those are sharp and pointy. I dull all of mine. Those needles will break easier. Come on, Mark, you do this for a living. You can't even get this in there. They'll break easier, but you only need to get it to do this one time anyway, so who cares? All right, so I go through and then back around and then poke onto itself. There we go. And it's really important. This stuff is waxed. I take my hand and I run it down this whole thing to really make it a nice, clean, smooth transition, especially where the needles go. I'm tired. Yeah, it's looking pretty good. I'm glad I went with this grip. I was going to do that black alligator, and I'm just not excited about it at all. Not even a little bit. There we go. Let's put that needle in. Okay, we are set to stitch. Now, here's where it gets super tricky. I'm going to end up changing out my battery for the 15th time because this GoPro battery is not holding a charge well. I'm going to change out because I don't want to have to do it midway. And then I'll show you guys how I baseball stitch this. I don't like the cross stitch. Cross stitch that I do on quivers, don't like it on this, not at all. Baseball stitch is the way to go. So, all right, let me change it out. Okay, to finish this off, now that the holes are punched, we're going to put a light strip of glue down in here. Now remember, the leather already has the glue on it, so we don't have to worry about that. It's just mainly down on this. But the difference is we're not going to let this dry completely. We're going to let it get a little bit tacky and immediately start sewing. So that way, if it shifts, we can move it a little bit without having to peel it back up. You don't want too thick in here too, because it'll ooze out the stitching. There we go. Okay. We're gonna let that tack just a little bit, not too much. This contact cement works. It dries quicker when you blow on it. It's one of those things like you think blowing is counterproductive. It's not. It still works. Somebody just blew something. We're just trying to get it to the point that it doesn't kind of stick to my fingers. Let's see. That should be pretty comfortable there like that to stitch. Probably not have anything else on the table, but whatever. So we're going to go through. We're going to start on the top. But here's the thing. We've got to do a double stitch on the top so that way it locks. So we're going to go once around like that, and we're going to take it and come back around. That way it's got one stitch on top that completely goes around. Okay. All right, make sure our needles are the same length. I mean our threads. Okay. Now what we're going to do, we're going to tighten this super gently. Do not tighten it too hard. And as we tighten this, we're going to press down. And we're going to get that to stick. I don't know if you can see that too well. So that first one, we just made it, so we went around it twice to make one flat stitch right there. We tightened it and we pressed it down. And like I said, not too tight. If you go too tight, it's just gonna rip. Now the baseball stitch, it's just like tying your shoes. I'm gonna stay, the right is gonna go first. So we're gonna go under the leather and then through the hole with the right one first. Okay? Left one under the leather and through the hole. Alright, then we're gonna tighten. This is a tricky one because it wants to loosen that first one that we did, which it did. Come on, Mark. Tighten that up. There we go. And as we go, it's just going to get better and better. So when I tighten, I'm pressing down on my other stitches. Alright, so right one first, under the leather and through. Really should have gotten everything off the table. Okay, tighten. There we go. That looks pretty good. Probably could have gone with a smaller stitch length. Well, for some reason, I always think that I'm going too small. There we go. That's what she looks like so far. And it's really important to start working it a little bit here now. Now what I'm going to do, I want to tighten this first knot. So I'm using my needle to kind of lift that up a little bit. And just tightening that. There we go. Now I should be able to use this one to tighten this. There we go. Now I could just tighten here. And you really want to try to get it as symmetrical and perfect as possible right now. So right needle first, through, come around, left needle, up and through. The glue is starting to kick. It's really starting to stick now. But it's okay because it's just this beginning part that's the real tricky part. Over here we're okay with that glue being dry now and starting to actually work as contact cement. Right needle first, left needle second. Yeah, I think the next time I'll shrink up that stitch length a little bit. I can never remember. Still looks good. Ooh. Not happy with that right there. Let's peel that back up. There we go. Now you see, I just used my needle, the contact cement, this pressed down here and left a gap. So what I did is use my needle to lift everything off of there so that way I could retighten. Now she looks good. Okay. Left side, right side. Yeah, I'd shrink up. I would try to shrink up to 1/4 inch. I thought I did 1/4 inch one time and I didn't like it, but now that I'm looking at it right now, 1/4 inch would look really nice. This does looks good too. Actually, I don't know. Let me finish it and then I'll make decisions like that whether I like it as much or not. You know, with the larger stitch lengths too, it's a lot easier to not make mistakes. Yeah, you know what, maybe this does look good. I'm gonna lift this up if it contacts too early. There we go. Man, that does look good. So left, I'm sorry, right one first. You see that stitch as it's going? Looks nice. I'm so paranoid about ripping. I got to this stage doing Josh's with this ostrich leg, and I had never done the ostrich leg before. And I was used to the gator, and the gator, if you want to close up a stitch, you just yank it. It'll be completely fine. And it turns out you cannot do that with this stuff. Oop, almost went over the top by accident. See right there? I almost went to rip that. So now we're gonna go like this. We're gonna take this to finish this off. I can't just end it there like that. I've got to take each needle and I've got to do so it finishes crossed across like this. So we're just gonna take this right needle, we're gonna go like this and bring it through all the way across like that. You see that? And that'll finish it. Okay. All right, and then I'm going to take the left needle and do the same thing. Just like that. And we can tighten that up. Try not to get them on top of each other because it'll make a big bulge. I try to lay those threads next to each other. Okay. Looks good. All right, now, to get rid of the thread, we're going to take this. This is the tricky part. So to truly finish it off, I'm going to take this needle, I'm going to stick this. So this is the right hand needle. I'm going to take this thing, I'm going to stick it back in this hole and kind of just make it come out anywhere up here through one of these holes. And what I'll do is I'll cut it and it'll remain up underneath here. So we're going to take this one, let's see, I'll just stick it to right underneath here. Make it come out here maybe if I can. Sometimes it's nice to have a slightly bent needle to have it do this. Come on, you could do it. There we go. Just through the first stitch. And I'll cut that one off and just tuck it right back underneath. Okay, and I'll use the back end of the needle to just push it back up underneath there so I don't have to look at it. All right, and then mash everything back down. Same thing with this one. Try to get that back up underneath there more. I made that one a little further up. There we go. Tuck that one up underneath too. Come on, get back under there. And then press everything down. Okay. And what I like to do, just hammer down those stitches just a little bit, make them flat. Or you could take it and do this. This is actually a little bit better doing it like this. I'll take something round and I'll roll real heavy over the top of it. Just to really flatten everything. That is a bow grip. Let's see if we can show you. Let's get some better light. You see that? Nice clean edge. Nice clean everything. There's your stitching. And like I said, I racked that stitching off to one side, and let me show you why. I like the way it feels, not having it completely in the middle. I think it looks good like that too. It just always did. And it's just gonna get better and better and better, and it's gonna stick. So I pulled just a little bit right here. It's okay. Over time, this little bit will lay flat, especially with sweat on my hand and everything. But that's a finished bow grip. I know it took a little while. It's tricky. So you can see the hardest part about this is the trimming. It's literally just the trimming. The rest of it is really easy, and just making sure that everything lays flat. So thanks for watching, guys. And I'm gonna put some snake skins. Oh, let me show you the snake skin I'm gonna do. So typically, when I've been doing snake skin, I've been doing full limb. What I'm doing is I got this sweet little diamondback, and I don't have a matching set. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna cut this diamondback in half, and I'm gonna just go from here to here with the diamondback, and then the piece the same size from here to here, and sinew wrap. So I think I might do a video on that. Drop in the comments if you guys want to see a video of me doing that. So thanks for watching.